TGI Fridays on Veterans, right across from the Lakeside Mall between Causeway and Severn. Fabulous food here at TGI Fridays, where it's always Friday, and we're feeling like it is right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prep Recruiting Insider. I'm Ken Berthelot, along with our recruiting expert, our recruiting guru, Rene Nadeau. And what a day and what a show we have planned for you. Rene, this is St. Aug Day, St. Augustine Day here on the Prep Recruiting Insider. We'll have Coach Cyril Crutchfield and some of the players from St. Aug, including Oliver Celestin as our legend. But we have a lot to talk about because last week we looked at the Tulane recruits, and this week we look at the LSU recruits.
You know, a lot of these guys we have here are going to be focused, a lot of schools, LSU and Tulane, among others, are going to be looking at it because the guys we have on today are all juniors, and not only is the 2013 class strong, but the 2014 is busting at the seams. What talent the metro area is going to have.
You have talked about that often, saying the 2014 class might be the stronger of the two.
Absolutely, Ken.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights and also some of the players who are high on LSU's commitment list. Here we go, right off the bat from La Ranger, Gerald Brazil.
Gerald Brazil, 4'3", 340, 5'9", 180 pounds, will probably play cornerback, but he is an unbelievable, exciting player, explosive, can play as a wide receiver or cornerback. He's leading La Ranger Wolves right now into the playoffs, and he, again, comes up strong as a cornerback. He's not big, 5'9", 180, very dynamic, very explosive. Even though he's committed to the Tigers, Arkansas and Ole Miss are still strong on the four-star player.
Rashid Robinson and Andy Dodd before we get to Ricky Jefferson.
Rashid Robinson out of Pompano Beach, Florida, 4'5", 40, a cornerback. Andy Dodd, 6'4", 315, committed to Alabama. He flipped. He's now an LSU Tiger so far. Ricky Jefferson, cornerback and wide receiver for Destrehan, 6', 185, 4'5", 540. He is a big-time player, and this is against West Jeff. He breaks a lot of tackles. You see how explosive he is. He is a playmaker and a game changer for the Destrehan Wolves. Great body control, acceleration. He's also a super kick returner for Destrehan. You see him right here, lined up in the slot. Just an out pass, out pattern, cuts it back. Great moves. Look at the moves. And he's got a little jello in his boots, Ken, so he can kill you. He's going to probably play cornerback for the Tigers, but he takes a pass again. He's a big-time playmaker for Steve Robichaux at Destrehan.
How about Lewis Neal from Wilson High in North Carolina?
6'2", 240 is a prototypical middle linebacker. Deshaun Smith out of Barb, 6'4", 220, good body control. He's more of a receiving tight end right now, but he'll fit in well for the Tigers. You see right here, he's got good hands. Comes down with a pass over the top. Not an easy catch to make. Wow. Again, 6'4", 220. He's good in a run after the catch. They slot him out, even though he's a tight end, Ken, but he's going to be a tight end. They'll put some weight on him. He's about 220, probably dress out to about 240, 245, but he really is a weapon for Barb.
Big time catches against tight coverage.
Very, very good. Look at that one-handed snare right there. So Deshaun Smith is a welcome addition to the Tigers, and they beat a lot of good people to get his services. Anthony Jennings is a guy that, Melvin Jones, middle linebacker out of Washington, Marion, 6'3", 245. He's a four-star, a downhill tackler. Alabama, Arkansas, A&M were really on him strong. Anthony Jennings is a dual threat out of Marietta, Georgia, 6'2", 202, 4'5". Ken, he's a guy, he's a super runner, but he's also got a strong arm. And you can see him right here. Surveys the field. Really a gunshot arm. Great delivery right there. Comes over the top. Terrific arm strength, good fundamentals, and the Tigers really covered his skills. He's a guy that can be very special. You can do a lot of things in quarterback. Look, he can kill you with his feet, 4'5" speed, great acceleration, wow, great broken field running. Look at that move, boom, plants his foot. So Anthony Jennings will be a welcome addition to the Tigers next year as he arrives as a true freshman, and true freshmen are playing now. Kennard Swanson, he was a defensive tackle, but he'll play linebacker or play fullback for the Tigers. He's kind of a J.C. Copeland type with a nasty attitude, 6', 255. Defensive end Frank Herron, 6'5", 245. He's a guy that can see the field for the Tigers, even though he's a true freshman next year. He is a dominating defensive end.
And then Ethan Posick from Lamont, Illinois.
6'6", 290, mean, nasty, finishes his blocks. He had a lot of people looking at him. Logan Stokes is a guy that he's added a little weight. 6'6", is about 235, 240. Alabama's on him very strong. Hayden Reddick is a guy who's 6'4", 205 out of Los Angeles.
And let's take a look at some video of Hayden from Los Angeles, California.
And Ken, he was at the Alabama-LSU game and is sold on the Tigers. He'll come in January, so he'll get a jump start on learning that offense and trying to get some playing time for the Tigers. Very advanced, can make all the throws, can throw over the top, decision-making, tough in the pocket. He's basically a prototypical pocket passer.
Let's move on now to wide receiver, and I just love this name, Quantavious Leslie from Hines Junior College.
6'4", 200, Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, Oklahoma State, and Ole Miss was still on him, but the four-star said he wants to be a Tiger. Michael Patterson out of Winfield, you'll see him in the playoffs, 6'4", 240. KJ Malone out of Ruston, son of Carl Malone. Tevin Lawson plays both sides of the field for Dedham Springs. He'll play defensive tackle. And John Doris out of Neville, you'll see him in the playoffs as well.
And he's one of the reasons why Neville's been ranked #1 all year.
And he comes down with a pass right here. You see he breaks the tackle and into the end zone. That was from last year's state championship game. What a diverse player he is. He can play safety or wide receiver. And you see him flashing his wide receiver skills. He's 6'1", 215, 4.55 speed. Alabama and LSU were in a tug of war for his services.
Let's move right along to New Iberia, Louisiana, and a guard, Josh Booty.
Josh Booty, 6'5", 320, can be dominating. He could play next year. Jeremy Cuttra, 6'3", 180 out of Jules Sumner. Tre'Davious White is the cousin of Mo Claiborne, and he plays a lot like him, 4.4 speed. And Chuck Baker out of Solomon High School, a wide receiver, 6'2", 195.
Have some video on Chuck, and we'll take a look at that right here from Solomon High School.
He's got great body control, crossing patterns, good hands, good release. Yards after catch is outstanding. You see him right here displaying some acceleration and speed. He's about a 4'5" guy. Great reach, and he's not afraid to make the tough throw. He will block as a wide receiver. Another guy that LSU just picked up a commitment from is Christian LeCoultre, 6'5", 275 out of Lincoln, Nebraska. LSU beat A&M and Nebraska for his services, but he is a guy that can play defensive end or tackle, and what an addition he is.
Well, I'll tell you what, LSU, what talent, huh?
Greg Gilmore is a guy, keep an eye on in North Carolina. He may be committing to the Tigers tomorrow. It'll come down to Florida, LSU, or Oklahoma. Tigers look good.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at what's happening with the playoffs right here on the Prep Recruiting Insider. We are at TGI Fridays in Metairie. TGI Fridays, where it's always Friday. We're on Veterans, right across from the Lakeside Mall between Causeway and Severn. Come visit our good friends at TGI Fridays. It's playoff time, the second season, our favorite season in high school football. And I'm going to tell you what, we've got some top seeds, Rene, that are exciting.
Well, New Orleans always produces a lot of talent, and the game's going to be the championship game. The road goes through the Dome. So, you know, there may be some teams from this area may make it to the Dome and be playing on that final weekend.
Let's take a look at the top seeds and talk a little bit about each one. And right off the bat in 5A, no surprise. Actually, no surprise if you look at any of these schools. But, man, these are the schools to beat in their respective classifications.
You know, Romo's done it on both offense and defense. Damian Williams, the quarterback, has come back out of injury, haven't missed a beat. Neville with John Doris is really, really talented, and they'll be coming expecting to make it to the Dome. Parkview Baptist always turns out some great college prospects. And speaking of college prospects, John Curtis, they should be playing it, in the NFC South. But JT is used to being in the Dome, and Washita Christian, the class of single A, they are going to be tough to beat.
And by the way, if John Curtis goes all the way, which I know we expect them to do, this would be the 25th state championship in the 50th year, 50th anniversary of John Curtis School. That's very special. Let's take a look at some of the matchups that we're going to see. Matchups of interest right here. That's going to happen in week number 1. West Jeff at Jesuit. That's a rematch
Yeah, in fact, they beat the Jays 24-17 just last week. Covington and Mandeville, wow, that's a neighborhood battle right there. Hahnville and St. Paul's. Hahnville came up strong. We'll talk about them a little bit later, winning their district, but they're going to travel to St. Paul's, which is a tough place to play. McDonough 35, East Jefferson, they're very familiar with the others. Shaw and Holy Cross, good game. Port Allen Newman, Jay Tyler, boy, he can light it up from everywhere. 2A, Pope John Paul travels to John Curtis. South Plaquemine will host Carver, and Carver, they played back on October 26th. South Plaque won 26-24. St. Edmund and Country Day. Country Day is a team that plays on Friday afternoons, and they got a lot of tradition there.
You know, as you look at these games right here, the one that stands out the most is West Jefford Jesuit. It's a rematch, and hey, you know, think back of LSU, Alabama. It's hard to beat a team twice.
It really is, Ken. And you know, the thing is, West Jeff, they both schools do a great job coaching. West Jeff with Marcus Scott and Jesuit Wade Kaiser. They've seen each other just a week ago, so if you tweak a couple little things, that score may be a little different.
That's going to be interesting. Now, let's take a look at some of the notable performances that did take place over the last weekend, and these young men will take that momentum into the playoffs right off the bat. The team that is the #1 seed, Rummel, and quarterback Damian Williams.
Damian Williams got Rummel a 59-21 dominating win over Brother Martin. He accounted for 348 yards, 181 yards rushing, 167 passing, and 3 scores. Keith Fulton, the running back, 145 yards and 4 scores. The Raiders rolled up 571 total. West Jeff improved to 7-2. We talked about that. Cornerback Perry Nickerson led a stubborn defense. Tanner Lee completed 81% of his tosses for 256 and a pair of scores. Holy Cross plays that great defense.
Well, the finish of that game for the 2-point conversion from the 6-inch line after a couple of penalties, unbelievable.
What it in, Todd Spriggins did a great job deciding that 2-point with that win. Jay Tyler, again, 209 yards, 5 scores. Riverside, Deuce Wallace, and Jacquel Sanders. Jacquel Sanders accounted for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a catch for a score. And Sardi, at Crescent City.
Yeah.
Joe Ansardi had a great game, 261 yards, almost 12 yards per carry and a touchdown. McDonough 35, Corey Coleman led all facets of the game as a tackler and special teams, Ken, and returned a fumble, 80 yards for a score.
That was the play right there that everyone felt like turned the momentum. If there was any momentum that had to be gotten, that did it and turned the game around and kind of sealed it for Mac 35.
Great point, and Mandeville 7-2 shut out Covington, producing 319 yards. The skipper defense held the line, so 152 yards. Zach Boudreaux with 7 grabs, big game. St. Paul's, their 3rd straight district 6-5-8 title, 7-3. Finished the season 7-3 with a big win over Fontainebleau. And John Curtis, boy, I tell you what, they keep rolling.
Gracious. You know, we teased a little bit and said, will they be tested just a little? And the answer was, no, they weren't. And they just keep rolling. Can anybody beat John Curtis this year?
But they beat him over the top, and that's good. Patrick Martin flashing some passing skills. 216 yards and 3 scores, 1 going to Malachi Dupree, a 58-yarder. Shaw with a big win over Helen Cox. Gets him into the playoffs, Kenny. 50-30 over Helen Cox. But I tell you what, I like this guy, Dion Gray, for Helen Cox, only a sophomore. He looked very, very good. 273 yards. St. Aug with a big win over McDonough, 47-6. They did it on defense. And Omari Jones led McMain 56-20 over Lutcher. He finished the season with 31 touchdown passes.
Well, you're right. It was a big win for St. Aug. Great performances all around. And since this is St. Aug Day right here at TGI Fridays, we'll be back with Coach Cyril Crutchfield and some of the St. Aug players right after this on the Prep Recruiting Insider from TGI Fridays in Metairie. Prep Recruiting Insider, and the guest of Rene and I on this show today is the St. Aug Purple Knights with Coach Cyril Crutchfield, and in this segment, quarterback Toi Jackson. And Coach Toi, thank you all for being with us. Let's start with Coach Cyril Crutchfield. And Coach, first of all, congratulations. What a great year. You come to St. Aug in your first year, people are expecting you to build a program, and you deliver one year in. How did that happen so quickly for you?
Well, it's a lot of things that goes into that. You know, first and foremost, you have to have players that really want to buy into your system, and they have done a tremendous job of buying into what we want to accomplish. Secondly, the coaching staff, it's been great. We have that great chemistry, and it seems as though every week, every game, we're getting better and better for its chemistry with the coaches and with the players. And then overall, just the overall culture of the school. You know, everybody's buying into, everybody's on one page, and you know, it's been great. But we expect to have a lot of football left. You know, and what's going to determine that is us playing and doing the things that we need to do on a daily basis.
You know, I tell you, Cyril, you from this area, and I know St. Aug is a special place to be. Expectations are high, but you know, it's a great place to coach. And also, the second part of that question, talk a little bit about, after you answer that, talk a little bit about your opponent this week in the opening round.
Okay, you talk about special, but before I talk about how special St. Aug, being here today is special because I grew up with Mr. Berth a lot. You know, and, growing up watching him when I didn't have to, you didn't have to compete against cell phones and all these other things. So I'm gonna have to actually get his autograph.
Well, that does two things. It tells you how old I am, and it also tells you how good of a football player Cyril Crutchfield was for Coach Jack Salter at Covington High. And we may get a chance to talk about that, if not on this show, a little later on, but I know a lot of great stories there.
Appreciate it.
I want to talk a little bit about Toi Jackson. Toi's done a great job, and a junior quarterback, and led this offensive attack. Talk a little bit about what kind of offense you run, and why you think you guys have had so much success this year, Toi.
You know, we run a spread offense, and you know the reason why we're so successful is because we're faster than most teams. You know, our coaches train us. You know, in the off season, we're stronger and we're faster.
Now, you being looked at as a lot of your juniors are at St. Augustine, are being looked at by college programs. Talk about some of the schools that have looked at you, that have expressed interest, and where do you think your strength lies as a college player?
You know, I don't really know what colleges are looking at me, but you know, I'm still working hard to try to get those offers.
Okay, and where do you think your strength lies as a college player?
I think my strength is being a quarterback. You know, I really love quarterback, and that's what I really want to do.
Now you're about a 4.55 kind of speed, pretty good speed.
4.6, yeah.
It's a good look right there, and if you can kind of take us through this is a previous game. You got good arm strength, and you can let it fling. Is passing something that you enjoy doing, or you prefer to be a foot soldier?
Yeah, I read the passive any day. You know, that's what I love doing.
And talk a little bit as we go through this film here. Through a lot of go routes, you have a lot of arm strength, a lot of touch passes, and you know, you're making some difficult throws here, Toi.
Yeah, you know, we just work on those things at practice, and in the games it comes easy to me.
Cyril, 1,196 yards passing for this young man. He's only thrown 2 interceptions all year. That tells you not only is he an athlete, but also a smart football player.
Oh, definitely. You know, and he, you know, I tell people all the time that, you know, he's our conductor. You know, we talk about this train, and everybody mentioned the big locomotive and Leonard Fournette, but you know, what you have to realize is that the locomotive is only one car on that train. You know, so there's other pieces to the puzzle, and then when you have all those pieces together, you need one person to make it go, and that's what Toi brings. That's what Toi brings to the table. You know, he's a leader. You know, he makes our offense go, and he's done a tremendous job, especially when you look at going through a coaching change where you bring in totally different offensive philosophy, defensive philosophies, and everything. And Toi has done a tremendous job in picking up the things that he's needed to do from an individual standpoint to help the team to be successful.
Toi, what have you learned from Coach Crutchfield this year since he installed you at quarterback that's helped you be the leader you are today?
You know, he's a really good person. You know, he always wants us to do better in life. You know, 'cause he motivates everyone on the team. You know, he preaches the same thing over and over. That's what we like.
Cyril, what, you know, every team is kind of unique, and what's the identity of this St. Aug team?
You know, it's strange you asked that because as a coaching staff, we met this last week, and we said, you know, we think we have this identity, but we want to still be able to create this identity that stands alone, that everyone knows when it goes into this game what they have to face. You know, but what we came up with is that we're a team that's going to be able to line up and run the ball, you know, and then have explosive plays out the run game, and then utilize Toi's talent. Toi is we talk about his football playing ability. He's a heck of a baseball player and probably has a good chance of being drafted in another year. But what he brings to what Toi brings to the table is that he's able to make plays and play action plays, and a lot of those highlights that was shown today exemplifies that he's the type of young man that you want back there to help create that identity.
Now, Toi, talk about baseball. What kind of baseball player, what position you play, and what are your skills as a baseball player?
Baseball, that's my first love, and I'm a pitcher. Baseball, I pick baseball before football any day.
No kid.
You
That's your favorite sport. Yeah.
Change up, fastball, what?
Yeah, I throw everything. Keep hitters off balance with my off speed.
Now, if college decides they'd like you to come as a two-sport player where you could play some football and some baseball, would they have an advantage recruiting you?
Yeah, playing two sports in college is a really good thing. That's what I want to do.
Cyril, you got a big game coming up this week. Talk a little bit about your opponent.
Our opponent is Alexandria Senior High, and they won a district. They're a 5-5 team, but they're playing like they're an 8-2 team. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. They're very skilled at the on offense. They have a good tailback, big tall receiver that goes and get the ball. Quarterback is what he does best is he manages the game. They don't do a lot of things on offense, but what they do offensively, they're good at. Defensively, they have good speed, especially on the perimeter. One young man sticks out. There's free safety. He's a ball-hawking free safety that plays sideline to sideline. So, we go into this game knowing that we have to be consistent on offense and, try to keep them off balance. Defensively, we just got to run and rally to the ball and make things happen, because when you run to the ball, good things happen. So they're going to bring a challenge, but we'll definitely be ready for that challenge come Friday night.
Toi, having a guy like Leonard Fournette, who we're going to talk to in the next segment of this show, in the backfield with you, does that help relieve a little pressure, and how does that help make you a better quarterback?
It helps a lot. We run the ball, and when we play action, they key on him, and it opens the pass up. It opens the pass up. So, he's a great player. He's a great leader to have on the team.
In the final 40 seconds, Cyril, if you happen to get past your next opponent, it doesn't get any easier. You got a tough bracket you're in.
Well, it's funny you said that, because what I told our kids, and I'm going to tell y'all the same thing, we don't even worry about what's next. Because actually, when you start worrying about what's next and who you're going to play, then the only thing that's next is you're going to be watching who's playing. So we know there's teams out there, and we just have to do our part and let the chips fall where they may.
Coach Cyril Crutchfield and quarterback Toi Jackson, good luck this weekend. Thank you all for being with us as our guest on this part of the show. And we'll be back in just a moment as we talk to a few more St. Aug players on the Prep Recruiting Insider. We are at TGI Fridays here on Veterans. TGI Fridays, where it's always Friday at TGI Fridays on Veterans Highway between Causeway and Severn. Well, Rene and I have two guests for you on this part of the show, both from St. Aug, and two players who have college recruiters just licking their chops. One is 6'2", 225-pound junior running back Leonard Fournette, and the other is a defensive back, and he's 6'0", 170-pound junior Jermaine Roberts. And fellas, thank you all both for being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. And talk a little bit just about what a great year, Leonard, that this team is off to. And did you realize it was going to be this wonderful of a year for St. Aug?
Well, actually, I did. In the summertime, we worked so hard, 5 o'clock practice early in the morning, and then levy work, lifting weights. So we had to get used to a real college program. Mm-hmm. So we're working out daily. Up and down the levee, too. Run,
yes, sir.
Run. One leg, like 2 legs, hopping. Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff.
I don't think the defense gets the love, Jermaine, so I got to ask you, because they had two guys on offense, and I'm a guy that likes hitting. You got a track background, a 4-4 guy, but you're a guy that's not afraid to lay the wood. Talk a little bit about your style, and talk about the defense, because the defense has done a great job for the Purple Knights this year.
Yes, they have.
Actually, we have a lot of juniors on defense. I saw a lot of guys came back from last year. So we like to get around the ball. Our coach wants everybody to the ball. We got ball hawk cornerbacks, and we have safeties, strong safety and free safety like the later Wood.
I know he's smiling because he likes to play linebacker, and I think if it was his choice, he would line up at linebacker. Leonard, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Would you really? You would rather you like defense better than offense?
I like both. I'd rather take a hit. I'd rather give a hit than take a hit.
I'll be doggone.
Well, you know, we talking about recruiting, and first, Jermaine, let me start with you. You guys are a year away, but what are some of the schools that have come forward and offered you, and what are you looking for in a school?
In the school, I would like a place to show me, make me feel like I'm at home. I have a couple of D1 schools that's recruiting me, like Michigan, Alabama, LSU, UCLA, USC, and Mississippi State, Ole Miss, a lot of schools.
And when will you make up your decision? Will it come down to the last minute, or are you going to take all your trips?
I'm going to take a couple of my trips, talk to my head coach and my parents, and I'll make my decision.
And Leonard, with you, I know it's been speculated, you know, a lot of places you're going to be looking. When are you starting to pare your list down, and what are you looking for in a school?
First of all, a place where I can feel home. Academics first. My mother always taught me that, my father. Grades first. And I look like I could be safe at.
And what's some of the schools right now that maybe you're thinking about?
I have no idea yet. I'm going to make my decision. Like, I'm taking my trips in the beginning of summer.
This year, Leonard, again, a person who likes to play, you threw me a little bit. I didn't realize you liked defense that much. I knew you liked to play defense, but I didn't know you liked it more than offense. That really says something. So, you know you're going to be recruited as a running back.
Yes, sir.
With the talent that you've displayed, with your running style and everything. But if a school decided that they were very deep at running back, and would you go to a coach and say, hey, I'd like to play defense too?
Yeah, I would.
And not just playing both ways, but you want to play defense even though you know they're going to recruit you at running back?
If they need help there, I'll play for the team.
Let's talk a little bit about your running style too, because we've got some video of you, and then we're going to take a look at the video of Jermaine. Talk about your running style, and there you see it right there. There you go.
Well, you know, I run a 4.35. I'm very shifty for my size. And, you know, I'm a downhill runner, and I have power too.
What about your hands, and what about your blocking? Because I know coaches like to hear a guy can run the ball, but
Oh yeah, I know how to block. That's all we work on in practice is blocking.
you got to look like you're a little after gear here. And is there any special player? I mean, being a local fan, are you a Saints fan?
No, sir. I'm not a fan of no one in college or in NFL.
It's interesting because you played as a freshman and done a great job, and you know it's got to be it's got to be tough. Well, this is a great catch right here, Leonard. It's got to be tough when you know the defense. You have an X on your back, and they're focusing on stopping you.
Yes, sir. They always put 9 in the box, so you know it's like they have the eye on me all the time.
And Rene, everybody talks about Leonard as a rusher, and he's rushed for 976 yards, but he also has 3 receiving touchdowns to complement his 16 rushing touchdowns, and he's got 358 yards receiving too, so the hands are there.
Yeah, it's good. And is it something that came naturally to you, or is it something you had to work on?
It's natural. It came natural since I was young, but I had to perfect it, make it much better in high school, because I know college coaches look for a running back, a block, catch, and run.
Now, Jermaine, you're a guy that plays outstanding cornerback, and you know, you find the ball in flight pretty well. A lot of interceptions this year. Would you have 9? 9 interceptions? That didn't come by accident. And you obviously have a good break on the ball.
Yes, sir. I just like being around the ball.
And here's Jermaine right here.
I like being around the ball, being the ball. And when the ball's in the air, I want to become the receiver.
You did. You played that ball better than the receiver just now, Jermaine.
No. Again, I asked Leonard, do you have a favorite team or favorite player?
No, sir.
I have a favorite
What about
player.
Jermaine?
Yeah, my favorite player is Tyron Matthews, the St. Aug alum. I don't have a favorite team.
Okay. Talk a little bit about, as you come up, this is a great tackle right here, as you kind of, you know, good instincts and find the ball quickly, and you can't hesitate when you find that ball in the backfield.
Hey,
and make a
read
tackle.
that one and came up from 12 yards back in the defensive backfield to make that tackle behind the line of scrimmage.
And Jermaine, you got a great explosion here. Being a kick return specialist has to be something you enjoy.
Yeah, I just depend on my blocker. As you saw in the video, I had a great block by Leonard Fournette.
He had to point that out. Leonard had to point that out. He laid in the wood. You could hit a wood crack. That was good. Obviously good speed. First of all, let me ask you, Leonard, what does it mean playing at St. Augustine and being a Purple Knight?
It's more than football though. St. Aug is the first all-male black school, and for us young men, you know, nowadays, like, you know how we get in trouble, so it helped us be much wiser with the choices we make.
Coach Cyril Crutchfield has done a fantastic job this year with this team. What have you taken from both of you now? What have you each taken from Coach Crutchfield that's made you a better football player and a better leader?
Well, he brought a lot of much things that we didn't know about football. Like he made it simple for us. So we had to learn, we had to learn from him.
Jermaine, do you have a nickname for the defensive backs? I mean, sometimes, a offensive line has nicknames. Does a defensive backfield have a nickname for the Purple Knights?
No, not at all. We just like to get out on the field and do our job, do what Coach Cyril Crutchfield tells us to do.
Do you feel like, since you've had so many interceptions, you find that the opposing offense, are kind of staying away from you now?
No, I like to go into the game, sticking the best receiver. So if they're down in the game, they will have to take a shot at the best receiver, and I'll be on the best receiver.
Wow, not bad. And I want you to answer that same question too, Jermaine. What have you taken from Coach Crutchfield that's made you a better leader and a better football player?
Coach, he give us more responsibility to do, like with helping out with the team, more stuff to do at practice. It's making us better players and better student athletes. Getting our work done in school, going to tutoring. Better all-around players.
Good. And why can this team go all the way? Why can you make it to the Superdome for those finals?
Oh, man.
It's taking it one game at a time.
We have the talent, but it's the little things. Like, I've been starting with St. Augustine since my 9th grade year, and I know how it feels to lose, to come up short in the playoffs. So, from all those losses, I'm making sure we do all the right things, the little things, even the big things. We do everything right. You just have to play your part.
Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Jermaine. Jermaine Roberts, Leonard Fournette, best of luck this weekend in the playoffs, and we wish you best of luck as you march toward the Superdome.
Thank you, sir.
And we're going to take a break. I want to thank all the St. Aug players and Coach Crutchfield for being with us on this edition of the Prep Recruiting Insider. We are at TGI Fridays, and we'll be back with our Player and Coach of the Week right after this. Welcome back to the Prep Recruiting Insider at TGI Fridays on Veterans Highway, right between Causeway and Severn, where it's always Friday at TGIF. Ken Berthelot, Rene Nadeau, and it's time for our Max Home New Bath Player of the Week. And our guest from Max Home New Bath is the Director of Marketing, Frank Amos. And Frank, would you announce our Player of the Week?
Absolutely. The Player of the Week is Huntsville's Sergio Medina. Huntsville linebacker turned running back Sergio Medina tallied 240 yards on 40 carries, leading Huntsville to a 47-44 win over arch rival Destran. Destran's junior quarterback Donovan Isom accounted for 301 yards passing and 4 TDs, 2 going to wide receiver Ricky Jefferson.
Pretty good. Player of the Week, Rene.
That was an exciting game. That's a big rivalry, and that game vaulted Huntsville into the district championship and into the playoffs.
Frank Amos, would you read our Max Home and announce our Max Home New Bath Coach of the Week this week?
Absolutely. The Coach of the Week is Huntsville coach Lou Valden. Huntsville head coach Lou Valden, with a 123-41 record for the Tigers, finished 5-4 for the year. After 4 straight losses, they ran the table on the Final Four contest. Valden's Huntsville team won a 4A state crown in 2003.
And the district title, and boy, I'll tell you what, you're not going to get too much over Lou. He knows he's an old pro back there.
He's war tested, and he did a great job. And Frank, I know you know a lot about sports. This was a team that was down, picked themselves back up, and won the district title. And boy, I tell you what, Lou Valden has done a great job in the coaching ranks.
Well, Frank Amos is the Director of Marketing for Max Home New Bath. And Frank, why don't you tell us about some of the new products that Max Home New Bath is introducing to our audience and to the New Orleans area?
Great. We have new product lines that are out in the Home Depots today. You can go to your local Home Depot and purchase an outdoor living product. And what that is patio covers, pergolas, sunrooms, screened-in porches, any kind of outdoor living area that you want to extend on your home, replace that old patio or deck that you have, and you want to utilize it for a little more space. We also have what is called our water treatment systems. This is brand new too to our market. Basically what we'll do is the system is put in, it's like a water softener treatment, but it takes out, you know, the chlorine and all the hardeners that's in our waters. And we know down here in Louisiana, we have some pretty hard water.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's like a new season for high schools with the playoffs, and it's almost like a new season for Max Home New Bath with the new products. And I know you guys are very excited about it, and you're expecting big returns on this, and we're excited for you, Frank Amos.
Thank you.
All right, Frank Amos, the Director of Marketing for Max Home New Bath, joining Rene and I with our player, our Max Home New Bath player and coach of the week. We'll take a break, and when we come back, it's time to meet a legend from St. Aug High School. You'll find out who right after this on the Prep Recruiting Insider from TGI Fridays, where it's always Friday, right here on Veterans between Causeway and Severn. Welcome back to TGI Fridays. Ken Berthelot, Rene Nadeau, our recruiting guru, and our legend from St. Augustine High School, Oliver Celestin. And Oliver played at St. Aug, then went on to Texas Southern before having a nice career in the National Football League. And it is a pleasure to have this man, who is a very good friend of Rene Nadeau, on our show. And before we get into you, Oliver, I've got to ask you, you've got to be awfully proud of your St. Aug Purple Knights and what Cyril Crutchfield has done with this team in his first year as head coach.
I am. He does a good job of keeping their attention. He has them disciplined, performing, and bringing the success back into the organization. You know, it helps build a base for the foundation of the school, keeps them focused, motivated, and we just enjoy observing it.
Well, Oliver, you know, you and I have talked a lot, and so many things you and I could talk about with Kenny. It's interesting, you didn't take the traditional path to get to the NFL. Briefly, if you can, you started off with the marching 100, but that, you know, that physical, demanding lifestyle of the marching 100 prepared you for football.
It did. I was a young asthmatic guy as a kid. It allowed me to develop my my lungs, my wind, and I trained with the guys, trained with the band. And it kind of transferred over when I decided to play football. It wasn't as strenuous on my body and allowed me to adapt to that environment.
And what instrument did you play?
I was a mellophone player.
Rene Nadeau wrote a great story on you on sportsnola.com, and Rene is one of the writers when Ken Trahan's group at sportsnola.com. And one of the themes of that story was you were the guy who refused to take no for an answer. You weren't going to accept what people told you might not happen or you couldn't do.
Right.
Where does that come from? Where does that drive come from, Oliver?
Having an idea of what I want to accomplish in life, you know, and basically not being denied, understanding there's certain things that you're going to have to overcome to have that opportunity to perform. You know, nothing come easy in life, and I understand that. I just go out and try to prove a point, prove the things that I can accomplish to not only myself, but to those around me, those I observe.
How does a young asthmatic young man who's in the band work his way to football? How did you make that switch?
Wake up and go to work. I mean, I think that's the main thing. You know, you get out and perform. I would train nights before I decided to go out to the football practices. I was waking up, running the levees at night, doing the sit-ups, doing push-ups. Had a little weight set. I would kind of get busy in the living room of my home, and when the opportunity came to perform with some of the guys of my age group that were still doing it for the team, you know, I transitioned in. One of the other guys that I always talk about was Cortez Hankton. We actually decided to play ball on the same day. He went through the exact same process, and we had a chance to both develop. We played at St. Aug, performed at St. Aug, performed at Texas Southern. Both of us had the opportunity to perform on a professional level, and now it's just taking that opportunity and bringing it back to the community and create more guys to have, you know, basically pass on the same opportunity for them.
You excelled on the track as well as on the football field at St. Aug, and you kind of brought that with you to Texas Southern. That track background helped you a lot.
Oh yeah.
It did. It kind of gave me a little hip work and speed, sprint work, and more than anything, when you run track, you deal with the competitive side of it. You know, you're on stage, it's your show, and your performance creates points for the entire team to win. So that was one of the things I always used when I dealt with football. My performance is the things that's going to help my team succeed, and allows you to compete against your opponent and work to dominate more than anything. It applies to everything you do in life now. You know, leaving the game, trying to get internship opportunities to compete for that, and just keep pushing. You know, it's a competitive world. We live in that type of society, and I just enjoy competing.
What was your recruiting experience like at St. Aug when you made the decision to go to Texas Southern, and who else was recruiting you?
Some of everybody came to visit me, but Texas Southern was the only school to offer me a scholarship. So I appreciate that process, and because of it, I take time to help some of the kids that may not be highly recruited and find those guys a home, and basically give them an opportunity to educate themselves and, you know, and get a good career base under them, a good foundation under them, and kind of get them jump started in life.
It wasn't an easy path to the NFL. The phone didn't ring. You went as an undrafted free agent, spent 5 years in the NFL, and you were a special teams dynamo. We could talk a lot about but you one of the coaches that coached you and you had a close relationship was Herm Edwards.
Right. Herm Edwards stepped in, being a DB, guy that came into the program the same way, came into the NFL the same way. He was an undrafted guy, competitive guy, you know, and very knowledgeable. And to be in the organization at the time that I was with the Jets, they had Herm Edwards, Donnie Henderson, Corin Brown. So it was every ranking official over me as far as that coaching staff was DBs. You know, even right now there's Mike Westhoff, who loves DBs. He put me in a position to kind of be a headhunter on special teams, gave me a chance to develop under some of the older guys that were playing on the team, and it's been good. It set a base for me to not only play with New York, but have the opportunity to travel and make different rosters around the NFL.
Best memory of the National Football League?
Ooh. Probably my first playoff game with the San Diego Chargers. I was with the Jets. We played against the Chargers, and it was a cold, exciting game. We wound up winning by a field goal, and it was just ironic because the following week it was another cold game against Pittsburgh. We wound up losing because of a last second, not because of a last, I'll never say that, but we wound up losing the game at the last second with a field goal opportunity, and I think that year kind of opened up a lot about myself more than anything. It taught me a lot about myself and showed me the intensity that occurs week to week, especially during playoff time. It increases every week. So to play in the first game against San Diego and to turn around and come back against Pittsburgh, that level of competition increased. And that's something I always remember throughout those years. And I performed that way, you know, even in the regular season. From that point forward, I always try to meet that level of competition.
He still looks fast today.
Oh, he does.
He got that build. He looks fast, man.
In the last minute left, name some of the guys that you had a chance to be teammates with throughout the NFL. You played with the Browns and the Cardinals and the Jets. Talk about some of the guys that the audience would know.
Wow. Ty Law, one of my favorite guys, DB, Antoine Winfield, Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper, who else? Some of my defensive guys, Adrian Wilson, Antrell Rowe, try not to go too defensive. Kurt Warner, Kurt Warner,
oh, yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, Curtis Martin, Chad Pennington, who else? Santana Moss.
Hey, overall, great memories, isn't it?
Yeah,
great
the list goes on. A lot of knowledge being passed around in that league. That's the valuable thing.
Congratulations to you on a great career, Oliver Celestin, at St. Aug, Texas Southern, and of the National Football League. And thank you for being a guest with us on Legends here on the Prep Recruiting Insider.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of the Prep Recruiting Insider from TGI Fridays in Metairie.